Back, everyone. My mic's back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to resume the festivities. The party is about to restart. Can everyone make their way to their seats, please, for more stimulating and illuminating conversations with the world's leading thought leaders? Can we mosey this way? Can we electric slide over to this side of the room? I love her. You get it, right? You feel my energy. Thank you. Thank you for vibing with me. Thank you. This side of the room gets it. This side of the room's not giving me what I need. But you're loving your sandwich. I see you. All right. Yes, coat. Yes. Okay. We'll just wait a few more minutes. Have everybody come and get settled. Can we, in the meantime, make sure that the second teleprompter is up? Tell them about the second teleprompter. Hello, there we go. Hello. Everyone in the corner, put down the green juice. Put down the scones. Make your way to the center room, please. Why do I sound like I'm agreed now? All right. So, while I'll have you for a moment, what have you enjoyed thus far? This side of the room, it's giving me the action. What have you enjoyed thus far? Anyone like to chime in? You loved the last conversation. Why did it resonate with you?
Emma's I think she's just amazing. And I think her perspective on just even being a founder of like 2 companies, being a part of the 50% pledge, doing what she's done as far as like biodiversity, sciences,
I love that she walks the walk and talks the talk. You know, there are a lot of people who are Instagram activists and doesn't really leave social media, but the fact that she's using her platform and her power to actually make sure that we are well dressed, but also live in an equitable world is really important. So that also definitely resonated with me as well. Thank you. Thank you. We've already spoken.
I like you.
Oh, you like me? Thank you. That 100 I slipped you actually really worked, right? Thank you. What do you like about me, sir? Feel free to expound. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you so much. I like you as well. This audience has been phenomenal. We're halfway through, and we have many more interesting and phenomenal conversations coming your way. I'm ready to go. I'm good to go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Okay, let's get this party started again, shall we? Shall we? Yes, we shall. One man on the front's like, yes, we shall. All right, I'll hit you with my Oprah voice in a minute, but they're telling me let's keep the party going, so I'm gonna do that. When you're introducing both Colm, Dillane, and Eddie Huang, you don't list their accomplishments. You sweat over which ones to leave out. Colm, aka Super Kid, has collaborated with Puma, Coca-Cola, Alice and Olivia, Stuart Weitzman, ASAP Mob, to name just a few, and recently took a turn as creative director for Louis Vuitton Men's in last season's Paris Fashion Week. He wears many hats when he's not busy designing them. He's joined by one of my favorites, Eddie Huang, who counts producer, chef, restaurateur, amateur boxer. That I did not know.
Oh, are we on? We're on?
We're almost on.
Somebody said amateur boxer?
Amateur boxer.
Somebody said super kid, too.
Super Kid.
Right.
underwear model. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think we're on, man.
Among his many
think we're on.
multi-hyphens,
Hello.
he burst onto the scene
Thank you
as
so much.
an author with his autobiography, Fresh Off the Boat, a memoir, which was adapted into a critically acclaimed comedy series. They'll be speaking with my girl, Willa Bennett, editor-in-chief of HighSnobiety. Please welcome Willa, Colm, and Eddie to the Fashion Tech Forum stage.
Thank you, Lola.
Clap it up for the coolest kids in the house.
Amazing. Honestly, Lola's the MVP. She's been doing crowd work since like 1 p.m. out here.
It's true. Wow, what an introduction.
Yeah.
That was very them to do that.
Yeah.
We were back there and I was like, so these are some talking points. They're like, shh, we're gonna wing it.
We want it fresh.
Yeah, so this will be a live conversation.
Zero media training on stage currently.
We're very excited to be here. This is so kismet because I was recently invited to the KidSuper Creative Factory where I also got a KidSuper tie. Very exciting.
Again. We're going to need a lot of crowd interaction,
Eddie and
guys.
I are recent internet friends, so I thought a good place to start would be around this topic of community.
I drank the water.
So
They told us one person in every panel needs to drink the water.
So on the topic of community, you both have very distinct, and something I love about both of you, very distinct groups of young people around your work. Was that intentional? Have you thought about that? How has that changed as you've had to scale your businesses?
You first. Your kid is in your name, so like young people.
I was going to
feel like you
pretend
should
I
kick
was
it off.
you and just talk about the TV show about my life. But I think when you're starting off a brand as a young person, this community aspect doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like the goal. Like when I kind of started making clothing to meet new people, to build relationships. So it would be always funny when big brands would come up and be like, oh, I love your ability to create community. And I was like, guys, I wanted friends. Like I wanted a group of people that were interested in everything I was doing and people I could collaborate with. So I always treated clothing as like a catalyst to meet people, catalyst to build communities. And I always thought of it like jerseys for a sports team. We all support the New York Knicks, we wear the jerseys, and KidSuper was kind of that, and it represented like the team you grew up on. And when I was young, a lot of these streetwear brands were it kind of determined who you were, who you hung out with, what kind of things you were interested in. And I liked that a brand could represent like your personality and could also introduce you and bring you into new things.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, I just really resisted tokenizing, right? I could always sense from a very young age how tokenizing worked, even in school. And I felt like it was very counterintuitive to pick somebody from a movement or a community and be like, all right, now you're with us, leave everybody else that you came with, and now you represent all of them. And I'm like, no, I really feel like my friends that I came up with are very much a part of my work. Like any character in my books or shows or films, those are real people. I remember like I didn't really have much formal training writing, but I really liked Mark Twain as a kid for just some weird reason growing up in Florida. And I read Mark Twain's autobiography, and he said that every single character he wrote was a real person he met. And that like when he did that, he didn't really have to think about how the person talked or dressed because it was real. And I think when you manufacture stories and you manufacture characters, there's an additional layer of work that's like, you have to check it for reality. Like, would this person exist? Is it real? When you really study certain people and they are real and you've met them, you don't have to wonder if it's authentic. It's just, that's that person. So I think for me, like, I don't know how to do it without the community I started off with.
Yeah, that's amazing. How do you think social media has changed this? Because you can't go and meet the people who wear your clothes in the same way.
Well, from social media to me is just like moving the point of entry, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you sell a movie ticket at the box office, but if you don't have money for a movie ticket, then you break in the backside, or you have the homie that works at the theater let you in on the side. I think social media is that. It's like now there's a back door, there's a side door. But when you're building relationships with people, I don't know if it matters where the point of entry is. It's about making a genuine connection. And that can happen anywhere and as soon as you take it offline or even if it stays online, you know?
I also think it's given, as he was saying, access, but a lot of the things, I mean, even going to get a TV show or doing things that you've always wanted, like felt unattainable through social media have been more possible. And like it gives us leverage when we're talking to these big brands. It's like, yes, it's a small community compared to these giant brands, but it's a very like focused, intimate community that can actually move and shake. So when you're in these meetings now, you kind of have like, look, you don't want to piss off all of my fans. You should give us freedom to be creative, which is quite cool.
Was there ever a point where you were reaching an audience where you're like, that's not my community, and it kind of surprised you?
I'm all about I think the KidSuper spirit, everyone has it. So again, like when you start off, no one's paying attention to you. And it's like, I was never like, don't pay attention to me. I was like, please, everyone, come on to this. And I think what's cool about KidSuper is like, I want you to feel like when you put on a clothing item, it gives you that like sense of possibility, that little child inside of you. So I think everyone here has a little bit of KidSuper, even though you're not wearing it and you should be.
Ties for everyone. Everyone's getting one on their way out.
But yeah, I think also we were just talking about it backstage, but you know, you look at people from a distance and you're like, oh, I hate them, or they're corporate, or they suck, or whatever. And then you meet them and you're like, that's true. No, I'm joking. And you meet them and they're like, they're people as well. And I always think like everyone's like, what's it like working with big corporate industries? It's like a lot of them have real people that are interested in similar things that I'm interested, that are trying to do cool things. And now with social media, you have the leverage to really do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, social media I mean, look, we're at a fashion tech forum, right? Social media and clothing, it's like kind of one and the same, because what are you doing with clothing outside of utility? You're projecting a self that you want people to see. We're all choosing a version of ourselves to project and shaving off like Parmesan and like giving it to the world. That's what you're doing on social media. So I'm always like, not take it with a grain of salt, but I'm like, all right, that's who you want me to see. But I'm very curious to meet you in person or like to grapple with your work or your ideas and then see, oh, this is the unseen self, right? Yeah. Because we all have blind spots and we're like very aware of the projections we choose, but you're very unaware of the projections you're not choosing. And so I think that is kind of the missing piece on social media, that's just the nature of the beast, it's the nature of humans, it's the nature of projecting.
Yeah, something interesting is your account is KidSuper and your account is your personal account for each of your respective creative fields. Why? What's the reasoning behind that? Was that intentional or did it kind of just happen?
I was always kind of not against social media, but never was always posting myself. Like my first Facebook account was Zach and Slightly Colm, and my last name was Slightly Colm because I would use his Facebook. But I thought that, you know, I was only interested in posting like things that I cherished and stuff, and not really like, and I have to keep reminding myself to post. So I'm like, oh, post this. So if I had a personal account, it'd be too difficult. And KidSuper, again, like when I started, no one was listening. So I was like, pay attention. Everyone go to KidSuper. But I don't know.
So you personally run the KidSuper account day in, day out?
Yes.
Wow.
It's also, you get some DMs sometimes where you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Now I'm collaborating with, you know, some hilarious, like some big Bollywood director just DM'd me.
Wow.
And I responded like, let's make a Bollywood movie. I don't think he understood where I was going.
He's wearing the Bollywood film.
But I was thinking like, in Bollywood, I might look like Brad Pitt in that world.
I totally see what you're saying.
So I was like, maybe this is the world I should get into.
Awesome.
I see it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, from a blurry image, I'm Brad Pitt.
Look, it's Brad Pitt or it's Rick Moranis. Either way, it's fucking hot.
Eddie, tell us about your DMs.
Yeah. He got a different question. Yeah. What was the question?
about your DMs.
KidSuper versus it being your personal brand. Like,
Oh,
How do you
yeah.
approach this?
You know, the thing is for me is, I mean, I remember exactly when someone showed me Instagram.
Wow.
And it was my friend Max Koshkerman, and we were on a Vice Munchies shoot, and it was like Chef's Night Out, and we're on the shoot, and he's in the van, and he's like taking photos and posting, and it's 2012. I'm like, yo, what are you doing, fam? Like, we're filming this. And he's like, no, this is Instagram. You gotta like let your fans know. I'm like, what fans do you fucking have, man? Like Max, like you don't have like a brand or anything. And he's like, it's just fun. It's like a photo album you keep. Don't you have like a scratch book or a photo album or like a diary? And I was like, oh, that's dope. I like the idea of that. And
Did
like,
he work for Instagram? That's an unreal pitch.
no, he used to throw the Madame Wong's party, like that like illegal cabaret at the Chinese restaurant. He used to throw it with Simonez. And like, so Max was showing me Instagram, and I was like, yo, this thing is pretty cool because most of my practice is just me screaming into the void. Like my writing, my restaurant, it was just like shit that needed to come out of me. And I was never that self-aware about how it was gonna work in a marketplace. I was just a kid screaming into the void. And as I've grown, you know, Focus Features obviously creates like the Boogie account. And then my podcast has the podcast account. But for me, I let everybody else create those things. It all is coming from the same DNA from my personal account because everything I do is personal. And I don't know if that's good or bad. That's just like my practice.
And are there other platforms than Instagram that you are paying attention to right now?
It's that Chinese one.
OnlyFans? No, I'm not. I have a TikTok, and I went viral on TikTok once, but I didn't.
I saw that.
It's pretty cool.
Did you
But,
post that yourself?
No.
Oh.
But the issue with TikTok is I think it's like content crack, and if I get hooked onto it, I would feel like I'll be sucked into it because it just feeds you videos you like. So I haven't done it. Twitter, I never did. Thank God, because everyone gets canceled for their 2007 tweets. So I never got into it. You've been canceled by
No, not canceled, but I know what you mean. I like YouTube. I'm a big YouTube dude. I just leave YouTube running. I feel like I like intimacy, and I think you get intimacy and closeness with people and brands on YouTube. And like, I really like awkward pauses. I like interiors. So YouTube is just ill to just run. And like the girl that has Chicken Shop Date, like I really
good.
think Chicken Shop Date is phenomenal. And you know, podcast too is like there's like an ASMR element to it, and it's like someone's literally in your ear. It's just like Joe Rogan's like breathing hard for 4 hours in your ear, like sick. You know, I feel like I'm rolling with him at jujitsu. But you know, I really like pods, and I really like YouTube. I mean, not for nothing, I think Instagram's washed. It just, you just have to do it. It's like filing taxes. You know, file your fucking W-2. And it's just, it is what it is, you know, like,
Yeah.
but I keep it funky with myself and with the audience. Like, you're gonna find me on all the platforms. Everything is available for sale, but you know, where I personally choose to interact with art and culture is YouTube. And I still have a video store membership.
Wow.
I don't know, it's weird, but like I go to Cinephile in Santa Monica and I rent videos.
That is weird.
Cause it's weird, but I do it because they organize films by director, and
Wow.
it's not like action or whatever. They do have like niche genre. They have like cops and robbers and like teen drugs. They have those little ones, but really I go to the director wall because then you can find a director that has a film you like, and you can work through like, oh, this is their like Sundance film, because they'll like bootleg Paul Thomas Anderson like Coffee and Cigarettes Sundance lab film, and you watch it and you're like, yo, I see how Paul Thomas Anderson went from this Sundance lab short to Hard 8, and I see how he went from Hard 8 to Magnolia. And I really think seeing the arc of an artist is dope, because like we were having fun backstage talking about like brands we don't like, but when you meet people and you get into their process, you're like, yo, no one like wakes up and is like, I'm gonna be an asshole and I'm gonna make terrible stuff. It's just like, it's very difficult to scream into the void and scream something that somebody else is feeling or wants more of. And sometimes the people making stuff we don't like the most are the most honest and the
Yeah.
ones you want to hang out with, because they're doing it, they're not shaping it, they're not molding it as much. But eventually those artists figure it out. So I go to the video store to just rent directors' DVDs from first film to sixth film, or like in some cases 10th film, and be like, oh, they figured out how to communicate. Because that's all we all doing.
Do you think young executives, young creatives need to be on social media to reach the zeitgeist?
I think you got to do it to do business.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, unless you're uberly connected and someone's like bringing you into all those rooms. But if you're not, I think social media kind of lets everyone. It's your way to kind of break down the doors. But I don't know anyone who's done it without social media unless they're like dad owned the building. Then you're like, okay, I get how you got in there.
Yeah, I think you earn the right to be like Donald Glover or like Lakeith Stanfield, where he just take all his shit off
Yeah,
one
you
day.
can. We're all gonna
and
like
then-
if you get famous enough, you just delete it.
Yeah,
You're like,
that's-
oh, I don't like social
That's the
media.
hardest flex. It's just like to delete it and then like
But it's like, okay,
put
you're
up
in
a
a
photo
Marvel
with a
movie.
napkin the next day, and I'm like, all right, we get it. You made it.
Yeah.
You got more money than me.
How do you think this idea is also changing what it means to be a creative right now?
I think you like the difficult thing of being a creative now is you're competing with everyone who has access, who has this. So you have to really compete on all forms. So I mean, you can't just be good for one movie or good for one song or good for one clothing. You have to do so many things to get noticed. And so I mean, it's creating a lot of people that are talented, but also creating a lot of work that's just like thrown in there trying to figure it out. So it's like a good and bad.
What was the question exactly? Again, I like was fixated on what he was talking about, but what
Yeah,
was
Just
the original?
just focus.
All right, cool. Yeah.
The question was, how do you think technology is changing what it means to be a creative right now?
I mean, it's changing a lot. You got like the metaverse, you got AI, but I think at the core, I try to focus on storytelling because like that's what I double down on. And it's just like, I'm a sports dude too. Like defense wins championships. And I think with art, story wins. And so I try to spend most of my time focusing on story and character and world. And then when I do have additional time, I'm trying to figure out technology and modes of storytelling, because these are just new modes of storytelling. But at the end, you still have to have a good story to tell. And I really lean on experts. You know, like I'll find an expert, pick their brain, and be like, give me the playbook, and then I'll look at it and be like, all right, where do I agree or disagree, and then how is the best way to use this to tell my story? So, you know, even with the pod, like I looked at podcasts and I was like, the format got kind of stale. It's like everyone has the same 3-camera setup. Everybody's in a fucking super wide. Everyone's trying to shoot in 4K. I'm like, why do you need to see Bobby Lee in 4K just like talking at a desk? You know, like shouts to Bobby, I love him. But I was like, let me bring back the camera I used to use in college, and let me get my homie who shoots skate videos and just whip pan it. And it's like, so what if we missed a master shot? So what if we missed a tight? Like, it's Julius Cam. And so our podcast simply follows what our cameraman is interested in. Like, people may be talking and he's like zoomed in on their foot. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's amazing. You know, that's incredible.
It's all in the details.
Yeah.
I think you tapped on something really interesting. You were kind of saying the competition, there's just so much more than ever. Everyone's a content creator, everyone's a brand. But then there's also this like interesting tension right now where a lot of what you guys have done like hasn't been done before. And a lot of young creatives do talk about feeling really lonely and like feeling like, you know, they're looking up and they're like, no one's really ever had to be like an executive or a VP in this era. How do you navigate those two worlds?
What was the question?
Executive in this era? How do you be an executive?
I was
but yo,
following
your
her
questions are good,
for
but they
the
got
beginning.
mad prepositions and like I feel like they're semicolons.
What was the
and
question?
I'm like,
Like I feel like the first was a question,
Yeah.
and then the second was a
Yeah.
question.
yeah. My initial response is just what's really good. What's really good? What's really good?
What
There's
was
more competition, but yeah, what you're doing, there's not a lot of people ahead of you to look at. Are there any creatives?
Oh
who
no,
are like,
no, no! I got
yeah,
mad
you got
people to
this.
look at. I got mad people to look at. Yo, you got
Yeah, who?
like you know. I remember being a kid in like middle school, And I was in some counseling, and they're like, "Who are your friends?" I was like, "I ain't got friends. I just read books by dead people," because I related more to people that were like not here anymore.
But
like,
I would argue that those creatives, like, they're not navigating social media in the same way that you are.
no, Shakespeare was not up in the interwebs, but like he already has said everything. So no, my thing, I really looked up to Juno Diaz. Juno Diaz for me was like
Yeah.
the most powerful Jedi in the universe. And as an immigrant in America, I just feel like he completely changed literature in a way that like even literature is not fully acknowledged yet. Like I hope they teach Juno for another 100 years. I felt Tony Bourdain was like an exceptional white man who like bridged everybody. I really looked up to him, and I was like, there's very few people from dominant culture who see me and my culture in a way that I'm proud of. And I was like, that's my man right there. And then I think in film, I love David O. Russell because his shit is just so painful and so wrought with his relationship with his parents. And I like Steven Soderbergh because he could take a Chippendale movie like Magic Mike and be like, this might be the best movie of the 21st century. Honestly, Magic Mike got something for everybody. It's like, not even being funny, masterpiece.
If you leave here with knowing anything, it's Magic Mike.
Yeah.
Is a must watch.
Yeah.
So how do you?
I haven't seen it. To
I
be
love.
honest.
Oh, son, Magic Mike, you gotta watch Magic. Magic Mike is incredible.
What about the double XL one or the Magnum?
I watch all of them. I just watched Magic Mike Triple XL, B. Triple XL. Salma Hayek is up in the range, man.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the? Okay, I think what your question was. There wasn't too many people to follow.
Yeah. What you're
As-
doing is uncharted.
We're all
territory.
following Channing Tatum.
Yeah, true. Besides Channing Tatum or Channing, there aren't too many.
There's no other KidSuper.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, it was a little bit like there was no path to follow, and I was kind of just doing like one step in front of the other. But to that point, then you realize things become possible. There's things that I've done that I did not think were possible, and I wasn't kind of aiming for them. I was working at the craft at like a very like day-to-day form, trying to figure out whatever door would open up and take that door. So I think for a young creative, maybe if you're truly love the creative aspect, I think these big picture, you can have like a giant picture and like the day-to-day. And that middle ground, I don't think you have to constantly be searching for answers. You just like kind of figure it out by being super passionate in what you do. I think
It's hard to be good at mad things. It's like you got to be good at one thing and then figure out how to do it in different ways. And you said something that I think is like overlooked. You're like 1 foot at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah.
Like you can't trust people to put pants on 2 legs at a time. It's like, yo, chill, be good at one thing. Put
And
one leg at a fucking time.
these young kids all want that end thing, and they didn't. Like I'm like it takes 10 like everyone needs time to grow, and I wasn't always super obsessed with like wanted to do things, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. But I really enjoyed the like little failures and little successes and the making and the meeting of people. So
I tried to put pants on 2 legs at a time, but you look foolish. One leg at a time.
as Channing does
So
Yeah.
in Magic Mike.
in this,
Actually, he be tearing them off 2 legs at a time, though.
wow. So in this age of reaching for things that don't exist yet, what do you count as success?
Success. I mean, again, it's like something I'm not super concerned with, like saying. I feel like it's like you meet someone and they're like, "I'm an artist." It's like, kill yourself, It's like, "Oh, I'm successful." It's like, "Oh, shut up." I think it's something like you can feel personally. I really enjoy waking up and like having ability to try to go after a goal and not have too many things in my way. That feels successful to me. But I don't really talk about it. It's kind of annoying. How do you feel success is, Miss Editor-in-Chief of HighSnobiety, at such a young age?
Someone, yeah, I think it's changing constantly. It's like you reach one milestone and then you're like, wait, there's more. And I think young people are changing what it means to be successful. It's not like you become an executive or you become a VP or you become a CEO. It's just so different now. What do you think?
Yeah, well, my thing is I wake up every day and I'm like newly married and I just want
2 weeks.
I want my wife to be happy with me, I'm just like, I hope she's happy. I hope she's not mad at me. And inevitably she is. She's gonna like there's something I'm gonna do that did not take her full consciousness and spirit into mind in like the correct degree. And so she's gonna be upset with me. And I'm like, damn, I didn't communicate well. I did not represent myself well. I did not represent us well. And then I really do think that's literally all I care about. And my work is the same way. It's just like, I'm just trying to communicate how I feel to the audience. I probably will never do it to the level I want or mean to, but I just wake up every day, I write, and I hope I'm getting better at communicating what's actually in here, and I do feel I have as I got older.
Yeah, I've learned this with HighSnobiety. You have to say something, and you say it clearly, and people gravitate towards that.
Yeah, and like group meditation to me is real funny, right? Like I couldn't do it this morning, but I do lay on my back at the beginning of a morning and I'll just like inhale 20 times, get like big air, exhale.
I
Cause
think you should just group meditate, lead one right now.
I can't, no, I don't do group. I'm like dolo. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm very
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
also,
guys, we were
personal
almost there,
breathing,
but he's a
But
solo
just gotta
operator.
breathe, solo.
you gotta listen to the podcast for
Yeah,
that one.
I'll breathe with you if you want.
I'd
we can
love to breathe
together.
with you
Yeah.
later.
Something I'm curious about is like, there's one skill of being a creative, having an idea and launching KidSuper, but then there's scaling it, having people work under you, making it, growing the IP.
Very
Different
difficult.
skills. How has that been for both of you?
Very difficult. Probably my hardest thing that I have to overcome. Yeah, you start when you're young and thinking, working with friends is also tough and you're growing. And then you have to like, that moment hits where it's like, oh, wait, this is business. How do you how do you even hold your friend accountable, like without like ruining years of relationships? And then also, again, I started as such a creative where everything was, painting, art, blah, blah, blah. But then now it's turned into like doing meetings and talking and having all this stuff. And I'm decent at it, but it changes what you are. And that's kind of weird. So like all brand owners have to be part creative, very much part business minded, which kind of sucks. But it's hard to do both. And then as you get more and more successful, people are pulling you from different ways. So you have to figure out how to manage all of that. But that's definitely the hardest thing for me.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is going from like a creative project or being an artist to becoming a business. And like, it's corny because everybody's mentioned this, but I just always remember Jay-Z being like, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. And like, that really stuck with me. And when it's time to go to market, I just try to put aside, like make the art, right? Everything's done. Then now we go to sell it. And like, however we need to communicate this for the market, I'm gonna leave it to the people who are really good at speaking to the market. And then I just edit, right? And I think you have to find the people who spent their 10,000 hours doing that. Because I didn't. So who am I to come into your office and be like, nah, this is a bad plan? Like, I spent maybe 1,000 hours on what you spend every single day on. So I think it's just like knowing your boundaries, knowing where your sandbox is, and everybody respecting the work the person did before them. Like it has to be a team, it has to take a village. And you just have to understand your limits as an artist. And then where the next sandbox is as a business person.
And at what point did you know, like, all right, this is getting too big for my hands? I need to.
6
Trust.
months ago,
Wow.
7 months ago,
Wow.
where I was like, fuck, I can't do this alone. It was hard. I mean, I got the Louis Vuitton thing, so I was running another brand while doing my brand, trying to execute at the like highest level in the world, and that was where I realized, or not realized, I always saw the process going that way, but that one felt extremely overwhelming.
Yeah, for me, I always, I was silly. I was always trying to like keep every bag. Like, no, I could do the social. I could do, I could do the campaign. I could creative direct it. And the pandemic really like forced me to slow down. And because there was no business to do in the pandemic and I was dolo in Taiwan, I just wrote and I wrote probably 5 scripts that year. Wow. And then I realized, I was like, wait a second. if I'm not running around trying to do every aspect of this business and every single tentacle is coming from me, I can really focus on what I'm good at, which is telling a story and then letting other people tell me which project should go first, how we could perhaps message this. And so like the pandemic changed me, and then doing Boogie, like my first feature film, you show up on set every day, there's 100 people. There's 100 people. You really have to swallow your ego and be like, this is a team game. Like, I need to listen to my DP. I need to listen to the set designer. All right, the actor doesn't like this line. Let's rewrite the line. Like, I'm, as a director, this is a big thing I learned as a director, a creative director. At first, when you're young, I think you're thinking, oh, I want to show the world this, and I want to tell the world that, and look how ill I am. Then I realized, no, when you're really ill, you know your DNA is in there. You wrote the story. It's there. Now you're of service to everybody else on the team. That is directing to me. It's not about them serving your story. You're serving them in the telling of a story you wrote. That's really the big change that happened doing film.
And how did you learn how to trust yourself with those instincts?
Man, trusting yourself, I think I'm still doing that every day. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. Like, you want to fall apart all the time, but like, you know, I got a good therapist. Yeah, talk to him every week, and that helps a lot, you know?
I think also when you're starting out, no one kind of addresses it, but even like the 100-person set, like when you're starting doing it, we all did movies ourselves where we were editing, shooting, da-da-da. You didn't even know there was like a grip. You didn't even know, like for a business, I didn't know what HR does. I still don't really know. Like everyone's like,
Human
oh, you got to talk
resources?
to HR, and I'm like, what? At what size of a business do you get an HR? And is
Yeah.
that like just to make sure everyone's like happy? I still don't really know. But that's like a thing if you're doing it and building it yourself. You don't have, and like maybe the people around you don't know because again, you're young, everyone's kind of inexperienced. So now it's pretty interesting to bring people that have experience to kind of bounce ideas. But truly, you know, I think sometimes people think like, oh, the creative doesn't want to let go. It's like, it's not so much I don't want to let go. I literally don't know who to let go to. Like, where is this systems that create stuff? And that's like one of the, not a regret I have, but I think for young kids starting out, it's like maybe work at a big company that has infrastructure. So when you do go solo or try yourself, you know what happens. I just started making money from clothing at like 14. So I never really had a real job, which is cool, I guess, to flex on like a rap song, but it's not that cool to be like, what's HR?
Yeah, no, but we aliens. Do you know what I mean? We're aliens. Like, we never would last. Like, I lasted 6 months as a lawyer in an office. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was cutting people's hair.
I
in the
interned
office.
for a water company, and I pitched the lady to, can I shoot a show called The Interns After Hour? And she was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, well, he's a really interesting character. And she was like, Colm, no, go get me coffee. And then they couldn't fire me because they weren't paying me, but they stopped getting me lunch.
They were just like, he
Like
will
everyone
starve.
would have their lunches, and I'd be like, what the?
We will get rid of him by starving
Yeah,
him.
and I was like, fuck it, I'll get my own lunch. And then I was really late to one day, and I said I broke my wrist. So then I went to Walgreens and wrapped my wrist. So I had to wear a fake wrist bandage for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't know
HR,
what we're
that's what
talking
HR
about.
is
No, no, no.
That's where HR comes in.
But yeah,
You got it.
it's like, I think if you start off and you're a weirdo and you're in the margins, right? No one wants to help you out. None of your ideas seem viable. They're not, like, there's no way to monetize what he was
Right.
thinking 10 years ago or what I was thinking. So you have to do everything yourself. You are every single job. And then you learn to take pride in it because you retook it. And you're like, you know what? Nobody believed in me. Nobody helped me. I did it. But then it's like, yo, you got to let go of that armor if you're going to be more than that. Because, like, only a fool is going to try to put their pants on 2 legs at a time. Like, you can only do one thing at a time. So then, like, you have to. It's a weird
It's a process.
boomerang thing that, like, you get there by doing it yourself, but you have to let other people in to be anything else.
And at what time? That's a tough decision. And if there's the right people. And you know, like I have a bunch of friends that have brands that let in someone and then got completely fucked over. And I'm always like, how did you do, like, how'd you let yourself get in this position?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's funny to be in the position now because I'm like fully going through it. But there's definitely growing pains that I'm, because I had not experienced it, are definitely unaware of, that you kind of just have to trust and figure it out.
Yeah, trust is really important. So to wrap this up, what's your advice for young, excited creatives in here who have lots of big ideas?
Well, I think if you're actually, I mean, depends how young, how long have you started, but I do think working at a space that have done it before and being around people that have done it does help in the long term. But I also think being super excited and personally fulfilled from the actual work and rather than the destination, I think is important.
Yeah, I'm
Watching Magic Mike 1, 2, 3, and
Yeah.
Triple XL.
Yeah. No, I think like Magic Mike for sure. But the other thing I would say that's really important is in this day and age, I feel like there is a lot of pressure to know everything and be up on everything and to fill your brain. And I feel it's very important to be like socially aware, environmentally conscious, politically aware. But besides like the core nucleus of like news you really should be consuming to be like a responsible citizen, I think it's really important to unplug from the culture that other people are all like. If everyone's watching a show, unless it's Succession, I'm probably not gonna watch it. I'm gonna go watch something weird and different because you lose your voice if you all have the same mood board.
Yeah.
Like I feel like everyone has the same
Ugh.
mood board all
So
the
true.
time.
Pinterest, dude.
So
Like-
true.
Pinterest, ruining everything.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because like when I did
Yeah.
the Louis Vuitton thing, they had a board of images, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like in my mind, you wouldn't have a board of other like things. I'm like, this is what small brands do. You
Yeah.
can kind of carve the way with new ideas. But yeah, we're definitely living in like a screenshot of creativity generation, which
Yeah,
I mean,
like-
and the other thing, another thing I'm finding is like since you have to constantly to compete, you have to constantly be outputting stuff that there's a time where you're dry. So you're like, oh, I need to look for stuff to be inspired or move.
Yeah.
So that's tough too.
Yeah, I just genuinely feel like it's every single movie or like photo shoot, it's just taking place at the place on the color spectrum where blue meets purple. You know, like ever since Nicholas Winding Refn did Drive and then Moonlight like expounded upon the color palette, it's just like, I don't know if it's like every single film was where blue meets purple. Or I mean, that's kind of like Tiffany Mint here too. It's, you know, everyone's on the same point on the color spectrum just because we're so plugged in. And I'm like, I think if you unplug, your voice can become more original.
Beautiful.
What do you think?
I think, yeah, I return to social media to get ideas. So it
You
all
do.
comes full circle, yeah.
Yeah. Any questions, guys? No pressure. I feel like we're done, but
We'll take questions.
yeah, yeah.
We'll
Just
take
like,
questions.
what would Channing Tatum think
Oh.
about this?
Yes.
The connection.
Oh, honestly, the connection is just like, you know, the Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde and Magic Mike, I think really get into like a pocket of a world we don't usually see, and you get to hear a story from a character that you usually wouldn't care about. And I think that's what draws me to a lot of these stories is simply like, oh, this is a voice I haven't heard, and I'm curious about it. And it doesn't have to be dominant cultural or not dominant cultural in the market. For me, I'm just like, if you have a voice I haven't heard, I'm probably gonna sit down and listen to it.
Yeah, and it's about really saying something. I feel like everything becomes an echo chamber at some point, and what sticks out for me is like when people actually have a point of view, like KidSuper, LV. It's clear what he was doing. So
Like Amelia from Chicken Shop Date. Like I
Yeah.
randomly watched this show. I was fixated because she would just do cutaways of chicken in a basket and people putting it in a box or her doing to go. And I was like, No one would have ever told her to do this. No creative director, nobody would tell you to do a show this way. And she did. And I was like, that is an original voice. This is phenomenal. And like, you wait all day, you wait all month, all year to like see somebody do something like that. And like, it's so simple when you see it. You rode your bike here. That was a good choice.
I did ride my bike here. I think Eddie should run for politics. He is unbelievable speaker.
Too many tweets from 2012.
We can run to yes.
You are unbelievable, my friend.
Anything else? No, we're done. Thanks.